So yes, here we go. We'll try this Rockstar Watermelon Zero Sugar. Sounds absolutely terrible, but we'll give it a try. 157 caffeine. Actually pretty low on the B vitamins. 83% B12, 118 on B6. That's like low. There's a couple other things. The Rockstars tend to be pretty low, actually, in random non-caffeinated ingredients. But of course, we'll rate this out of 100. 25 for aroma, 25 for palate, 25 for finish, 10 for texture, and 15 for my personal subjective opinion. It is a watermelon color, I suppose. It smells like a watermelon. Look at that. It's actually more red on the camera, I think. In real life, it's more pink. More of a pink hue. Carbonation looks pretty good. Reasonable, reasonable. Yeah, it is very clear. The Rockstars tend to be more clear in my experience, whereas Monsters tend to be more cloudy. Seems like all the monsters we do are quite cloudy. And nothing that was ever quite like that rain we had, which had undissolved particles in it. I'm not sure if that's normal, but it did have undissolved particles in it. A super solution, if you will. Alright. Normally we use this turntable. I guess we can still use it. Mosley's big butt is kind of in the way today. There it goes. Happy Tuesday, yes, happy Tuesday. Daniel Berry Sports Highlights. Wowzers. Alright, so... Okay, so, again... Aroma actually is kind of on the cherry side for me. I know, like, objectively we're going for watermelon, but it doesn't always turn out exactly right. It does have a little bit of that kind of like green kind of likeness from like the watermelon rind, but to me the center like note of the aroma is more like a cherry rather than like a watermelon meat. Not terribly like complex though. I don't really get much else to it. If you want to go with like a hint of cranberry, you might get me with that. Yeah, mostly like red cherry with slight greenness, slight cranberry note. Some of that like artificial sweetness, artificial sugar, powdered sugar kind of aroma is like in the bottom. Overall, nothing too wowing, I suppose. What is happening? Oh, it's just your mother. Alright, so here we go. Rockstar Watermelon Zero Sugar. Cheers. Do you need alcohol right now? I got a 50 milliliter Canadian Club. You can down it right now if you You want to try this? Zero sugar watermelon? Oh, it's something. It's terrible. It's not good. It's rough. Yeah, it's a rough one. It's like the core watermelon flavor kind of failed. Like it's like it tries to get there, but it almost like collapses entirely into chemically artificial sweetener taste and green watermelon rind. Like you don't even really get it for even for a second. It's like the arrival is fairly flat, and then in the mid palate you get into like the green part of the watermelon, like the watermelon shell, the green part. But it's also accompanied by artificial sweetener, like chemically taste, you know, the chemically taste that comes with like artificial sweeteners. It's like that and like the green part of the watermelon together. And then like that kind of like pervades into the back palate. It's actually not good. To nail polish remover, not enough fruit. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. In whiskey, we would say if like they use a certain barrel or something like that, and it doesn't quite really meld right, and ends up with like a really like mixed or unclear flavor, we would say, I don't know if the whiskey worked. I don't know if this worked. And that's kind of like where I would go with this. I don't know if this worked. I think the idea was for it to be like watermelon meat on the arrival, maybe like cut with that rind piece, and maybe that rind piece was supposed to cover up the like artificial sweetener kind of taste. But instead it just didn't work at all. I think the like watermelon meat flavor, like the red part, the good part, it's really hard to get on the palate. It's there on the aroma, but for me more like cherry. All right, let's gonna take a big hit here, and then we'll try to assess the finish, which to me is probably not gonna be optimal, but. You do get some of that like candy watermelon slices on the finish just initially. And then that kind of fades into the same watermelon rind, artificial sweetener chemical note. Which, again, with these zero sugar beverages, it's really hard to not give way to that chemical kind of a note. That being said, there are some drinks that I've rated quite highly that do have a good way to like, they have a certain flavor that hits at the same time as that like chemical watermelon or chemical sweetener note that like covers it up well, or they like over carbonate it to like try to hide that part. This is not one of those, unfortunately. This is I feel like they tried to use that slightly green watermelon part to cover that up, and it really just didn't work at all. Does energy drink probably pack to punish your receptors then? I don't know. This is definitely not as pungent as whiskeys that I've had. It's easy to drink, I suppose, in that way. Alright, so if we're going to rate this, we'll start 25 on the aroma. Which again, cherry, to me, like almost like sour cherry, green watermelon rind. You get a little bit of cranberry. Intensity's okay. Not the worst. 16. Alright, the palette at 25. Probably horrible, but... And you have a couple notes of reasonable intensity. You do get a little bit of that slightly cherry kind of watermelon thing, but not very much. You get more of a strong presence of that green watermelon note, which is still a fair note to have, and then backed up by unfortunately that artificial sweetener chemical taste. So I still can't give it a terrible ass score, but 13 seems fair. I want to make it a worse score, but we're being objective in this part. The subjectivity comes later. And of course the finish. Actually not too bad on the finish. You do get a little bit of that, again, like candied watermelon slices. Into like, again, the green rind and artificial sweetener chemical taste. It's reasonable. Let's go 14. Texture on this one's pretty reasonable. Again, it's nothing sticky, nothing cloying. The carbonation is about right. It's not over carbonated, so the carbonate hits about correct. It's not, and it's a weird mix sometimes, because if you over carbonate something, you might be able to hide some of that artificial sweetener note. Some cans do that. But you would then get docked for having an over carbonated beverage. So carbonation is good here. We can well detect the flavors. It's not being intrusive or making it difficult to actually clearly taste the liquid. But unfortunately, the liquid is not the best. Like your fair yet strict review. Yeah. Again, we're talking about this kind of in the same way like I talk about Scotch whiskey, for example. So I do my Scotch whiskey reviews in the exact same manner. So maybe a little bit serious for something like a caffeinated energy drink, but I think it's interesting. Again, 7. We'll go 7 on texture. Texture is actually good despite the flavor issues. All right, so out of 15, my personal subjective opinion on this one, Rockstar Watermelon Zero Sugar, which is that simply, frankly, tastes horrible. That's my subjective opinion. We try to think about, okay, why would I go for this Rockstar Zero Sugar Watermelon over another similar beverage? In my personal view, I would not buy this again for any reason. Why would you want to buy this? Maybe you absolutely really love watermelon rind. You like the green part of the watermelon. That'd be the only world, I think, where this makes sense. And again, we're not going to rate something based on whether it has sugar or not, just the raw flavor. And unfortunately, zero sugar, in order to get that same score as a sugared beverage, you really got to nail the coverage of that artificial sweetener chemical taste, which this did not do. And the actual flavor reception for me is really not good, and I'd rather forget it. So out of that, out of 15, we won't call this utterly pointless. We could call it utterly pointless if it had no redeeming qualities, but I guess the one redeeming quality is maybe if you love honeydew melon or the green part of watermelon, you might get along with this can. I suppose I can't call it utterly pointless, but for me, we'll give it 3. I think 3 is fair. 3 out of 15 for my personal subjective experience. Which, if we add ourselves together, 16 and 13 and 14 and 7 and 3, this is still 53. This is still 53 out of 100. Which we do call good. It is good. It is still a good grade, and that is because, despite the fact that I hate the flavor, it did quite well in texture. And, you know, it did present some reasonable flavors on the aroma. Especially the finish was reasonable. So if you like this flavor profile, it's actually not that bad. Just not for me. We'll say it's not for me.